You know, it's interesting. I seen a comment the other day and it says, this guy's a real estate broker, he's a real estate agent, he's trying to get you to buy a house. Listen, if you want to buy a house, I'm going to show you everything that you need to do to buy a house. And most importantly, how to get over the fear. You see, the biggest reason why people don't buy houses is the fear of the unknown. That's so many reasons why we as people don't take risks and do things. In this video, I'm going to show you how to buy a house, how to make it fun, how to make it enjoyable, the step-by-step process. I'm gonna do it as quickly as I can. I'm gonna try to keep this under 25 minutes because I know your time is valuable, but I promise you it will be packed with helpful information. It's gonna save you time, save you money, and most importantly, save you stress. So grab a pen and a piece of paper. You're gonna wanna write these down. You see, to start, no, I'm gonna walk around this house. It's a foreclosure. This house is in Slidell, Louisiana. So if you're anywhere around Slidell, Louisiana, you wanna buy a house to live in, you can buy this house. It is a foreclosure. It's just under 2,400 square feet. It's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, got a 2-car attached garage, plus it's got a 20 by 30 workshop. You heard me correctly, $175,000. I'll show you inside here in a minute. Now this house doesn't need work. It needs cosmetic work. It needs carpet and paint and all that sort of stuff, which adds up. And a lot of people are like, well, Wayne, how can I buy a house like this? Well, listen, you can buy a home like this just like any other house, but most importantly, you have to get approved with a lender. And it's important to know that you have to know your credit score and pull your credit, because by knowing your credit, that's where you start. And you're seeing your tri-merge credit report. Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. It's called a tri-merge. Those 3 credit bureaus, and you can go to like myfico.com. I can put a link below. You can click on it and go there. Listen, unfortunately, to see all 3 and to know it's accurate, you most of the time have to go to a paid site. I think it's crap personally that you have to pay for your credit report. Who come up with all this, I don't know. I have a good guess though. They're the ones that run the country and have the biggest buildings. It's called bankers. Now with that said, you're going to be excited to know after this video, you're going to have the banks wanting to loan you money, because you do the banks a favor. You do banks and mortgage companies a favor. Listen, we're all people, we're all human beings, and I always tell folks, we all do banks and lenders a favor by letting them loan us money, not the other way around. So I'm going to show you a couple of things. I'm going to put a link to a video at the end of this video on how to boost your credit to get your credit score over that 620 like I talk about, because that's pretty much the sweet spot. If you're 620 or higher, you can get a USDA, FHA loan. If you're 640, you can get a conventional loan. You only need 5% to put down. A seller can pay your closing cost. So when you start crunching those numbers, you realize, wow, I'm closer than I thought to buying a house. I don't have to keep saving, because you have to understand, if you take this property, for example, and you were to Google the property address of this home, and I'll give it to you right quick so you can Google it. It's really simple. And what I mean by Googling is you want to see what this house originally sold for. It's 5542 Sandalwood Court in Slidell, Louisiana. They're asking $175,000 for it. You can see it right now on Google. You can go in and see pictures and all that stuff. But hear me out, because I want you to learn the process of how you can buy a house this way. If you're VA, you're a veteran, you need a 580 score. If you're USDA, FHA, you need a 620 or higher. As I mentioned, I'm going to put a link to the video on how do you get your credit score up. You got to have 2 years of income, proof that you've worked for 2 years. Now, what stresses people out is just the unknown, and you just have to know, quite simply, it's this. You get approved. Once you're approved, you're good to go. You're like a cash buyer. If you need an agent, you can go to contactwayne.com. We can get you approved. If you want to be approved with one of our lenders, we can also connect you with an agent. We actually interview and vet agents and talk to those agents, and we have connections with agents all around the country, thousands. So we make that process simple and easy for you. You do not have to use our services. We're not trying to sell you on anything. We're just telling you that it's available if you want the help. Now, once you are approved and you have an agent, you quite simply go and look at houses. Once you find a house that you like, you make an offer. Now, it's important to know that you tell the lender, hey, I have some cash, but I'd rather hold some of my cash, because they're going to give you what they call a truth in lending statement. And they're going to tell you exactly what it's going to cost you out of pocket. And they're going to ask you a couple of key questions of, are you a veteran? What are you trying to do? How much money do you have? We need to see your tax returns, 2 years. We need to hard pull on your credit. And that's why I say before you have a lender, do a hard pull on your credit. You pull your credit. Go to myfico.com, and once you pull your credit report, you'll be able to see that. There may be something on there that it's not yours. You can contest it and get that removed. But once you get real close to a 620, it's not a bad idea if you're right there at a 620 or even above the 620 to contact a lender, have them pull a tri-merge credit report, have them look at your income, because they can literally look at all of your information and within 48 hours approve you for a house instead of you having to rent for the next 2 years and save money for that down payment. Now you're probably thinking, save that down payment. I'll give you a quick story. I had a gentleman that called me the other day and he said, man, my dad told me to give you a call. I had another lady said, my mom told me to give you a call. They seen your video the other night and said you can buy a house. Yes, with USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, you're limited on your income. So it is a great first-time home buyer program, but you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. You can have owned a home before. You just can't currently own a home. Let me repeat that. If you're watching this and you're not a first-time home buyer, you've owned a home before. Let's just say you went through a divorce, you owned a home, you hadn't owned a home in 2 to 3 to 5 years. You can still qualify for these programs. Unfortunately, you're capped with your income. Now, as I mentioned, and maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but you're looking at making $55,000 to $60,000 a year to be able to purchase a $175,000 house. A USDA loan means a rural development loan, means these houses are typically 30 to 40 minutes outside, 30 to 40 miles outside major city limits. Now, that doesn't mean they're out in the boondocks. Of course, you can certainly buy any house out in the country, but if you just want something that's maybe on the rural areas of Atlanta or Orlando or Phoenix or anywhere, these loans are available in every single state across the United States with USDA. You also have to know that FHA. Now, let me make it real simple. There's USDA, VA, FHA, and conventional. That's it. So don't stress yourself out over what's this whole process. You pull your credit, you have your income, you've paid your taxes, you know what you make, you know what you got going out, your credit score's over 620, you talk with the lender, you tell them, hey, I don't have a whole lot of cash, but I've got $5,000 or I've got $1,000. You can go to contactwayne.com. We ask you those questions. Once we know those questions, we make a personal phone call to you, myself or my staff. We talk to you, we get you with a lender, we get you approved. Once you're approved, we get you with an agent. Literally 60 days from watching this video, you can own a home just like this one. But I want to walk you in this house so you can see what you get for this price range in some cities. Now, not all cities, because some of these houses like this, a home this big, this large, in this shape, in some place like Portland, Oregon, or Denver, Colorado, it may be $700,000. If so, chime in, let me know, so we know where you are and what prices are in your neck of the woods. Now, it's important to know that once you're approved, once you negotiate a price on a house, it's important to not let the price of the home get in your way. And here's what I mean by that. So oftentimes people look at the $5,000 to $10,000 to $7,000 when you're negotiating the price. You need to know this. You have to look at the payment and what it's going to adjust in your payment, because if you're approved, don't let the negotiation on that house get in your way, because you can be buying a really nice house, and so oftentimes buyers are like, I ain't paying them that much more for it. I'm like, well, you're biting your nose to spite your face. I call it stepping over a dollar to pick up a dime. The point I'm trying to make is I've seen a lot of people miss out on a house and they're like, man, I wish I'd have bought that house. Now it's gone. Well, you were bickering over $5,000 and you're going to spread that over 30 years in your payment. It's not going to make a whole lot of big difference when it comes to your actual mortgage payment. I'm not trying to talk you into anything, just been doing this for 30 years, trying to tell you what helps. So as we walk in this house right quick, you can see it's got some fogged windows. Those windows can be replaced by the pane. It's got tall ceilings. You can buy this house with a conventional loan, 5% down. And I'm going to show you why this house would not go FHA or VA. This house would not go USDA, because USDA falls under the same guidelines as FHA. It's got 9-foot ceilings. You reserve the right to do an inspection on every single house, even foreclosures. They may not turn on the utilities, but you can have them turned on. Here's what happens with foreclosures. Drives me a little bonkers, I'm sorry. But banks, they're all different. That carpet's shot. They ain't gonna do nothing with it. Big kitchen, look how nice that big kitchen is. Open, granite, stainless appliances. Do the appliances work? Nobody really knows. You can have it inspected if you want. That's the risk that you take. However, if you bought a house like this and you put 5% down and you got them to pay your closing costs, which some banks will, some banks won't. You never really know. It's on a case-by-case basis per house. But you can see how you can go in this house. The granite's in good shape. the ceilings, the walls, you need to paint everything, you can do a lot of this yourself, and you can literally have instant equity in this house that's probably gonna sell for about $275 fixed up. Now, here's why. Can you see that? That's called termites. Termites set in. Why do termites set in? Typically a window leak. Now, does that mean the whole wall's ate up? Probably not. Probably not at all, because it does take a time. And you have to look and see, are there any active termites? Doesn't look like there's any active, because those things will come and they'll go. Typically, you'll see where you may have to replace some boards in a wall, but it's nothing detrimental. I've bought lots and lots of homes. I've sold lots and lots of homes, but that's what I mean by, if you buy a foreclosure, you can't get too awfully worried about that stuff. That's why I tell a lot of people, if you're too concerned about that, you've never owned a home before, it's not a bad idea to look at new construction. Now, if you're the type of person that says, Wayne, I'm handy, or I got an uncle, a brother, cousin, buddy, whoever, then you can buy a house like this. You just got to know, you got to take $175,000. If you bought it for full price, you're going to need 5% down. So that's going to be what, 8 grand or something? I don't know, I'm just juggling numbers in my head. And then the banks can pay your closing costs. They don't pay your closing costs. Your closing costs typically, to start your escrows and all that for your monthly payment, it's going to run you about 3 to 3.5%. But you have to understand, a lot of people, a house like this, like, they love it because not only do you have a big fenced-in backyard, it's already here, you got a nice patio and some decking they played around with, you can pull that up. But here's what's really cool. You got this huge big workshop. Like, this is a 600 square foot workshop, which is awesome. So if you're doing any kind of work, you work on cars, restore cars, you do anything like that, you will have an embroidery shop. You just have to look at the possibilities for every single house. The reason why I tell folks that if you've got a good agent and you've got a good lender, they're going to recommend a good home inspector, or you can get your own home inspector. They're also going to recommend a good closing title attorney that's going to close the transaction. If you have a good agent and you have a good lender, it makes the process so much smoother because you're not guessing at that point. There's people out there, really good folks like myself, that have been in the business for decades, and they just want to do good. They want you to learn and know and have something. Now, a lot of people say, well, Wayne, how do real estate agents get paid? And this is something that you need to hang on to, because when a house is listed with a real estate brokerage company, the listing owner of the property, the seller of the property is paying the listing company. Now, as a buyer buying the house, you sign a buyer-broker agreement. That buyer-broker agreement says you're approved and you're going to work exclusively with that agent. It also says that you're willing to pay that agent. But here's what people fear. They fear being stuck having to pay that agent. 99.999% of the time, and it's been this way for decades, as the buyer's agent negotiates with the homeowner, since they're bringing you as a buyer, to pay that brokerage fee. So you see, you don't pay the brokerage fee for the buyer's agent. You're the buyer, you don't have to pay the brokerage fee because the seller's paying their fee. So let's go down the list real quick, because I want to simplify everything. If you get an FHA loan, you only need 3.5% for the down payment. You got to have a 620 or higher credit score. The seller can, and my agents that we have all around the country, we have the seller pay the closing costs 99.9% of the time. That's not a problem. USDA, it's even less. You only need $1,000 total out of pocket. Now keep in mind, your income right now to buy a house like this, and this is like one of the lower priced homes, like, it's hard to find anything worth anything anymore for $150, $160, and I know, I get it, it's frustrating. $175,000 house like this, you're looking at, $50,000+ a year in combined income, right? That's FHA, that's USDA, that's conventional, doesn't matter. Conventional loan like this, you can buy distressed properties because they don't look at them too awfully close with a fine-tooth comb. You only need 5% down. Once again, the seller can pay closing costs on all of these, right? And here's what's really important to understand. When you purchase a house like this and a seller's paying, let's just say you purchase a $300,000 house, right? You purchase a $300,000 house, the seller's going to pay 3% of your closing costs. They're giving you $9,000. If you buy a $200,000 house and the seller pays 3% in closing costs, they're giving you $6,000. So it's not uncommon, I had this question come up a lot, it's not uncommon for somebody to purchase a house for $200,000 and the seller pay your closing cost. It's also important that a seller can also buy you a home warranty. So as a first-time home buyer, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm living in an apartment, or I've been renting a house, and when the dishwasher, the central heat and air, the oven, anything goes out, I just call the landlord, he comes out, she comes out, fixes the property. With a home warranty, it's the same way. You literally log into a website, they come out, you pay them $100, they fix the item that's broken. So you can see, VA, you don't need any money out of pocket except for to do a home inspection. USDA, you really only need money out of pocket for a $500 deposit, which many times you can get back, and $400 to $500 for a home inspection. FHA, the same way, you're going to need $500 up front for deposit, $400 to $500 for the home inspection. The money that you put down for the deposit is actually going to be credited for you at the closing, because that's part of your down payment. But you can see, you can probably buy a house sooner better than later. And I always tell folks that, you know, they're like, well, he's trying to get you to buy a house. Listen, keep renting. I really don't care. It doesn't really matter. I just think personally that I'd rather own a home and pay 6% interest than rent a house and pay 100% interest. Because when you rent, you pay 100%. You get nothing back in return. At least, you know, if you buy this house and you've owned your home for 5, 10, 20 years, it's going to be worth a heck of a lot more than what you bought it for into the future. And when you rent, it's like leasing a car. You just have it, you can use it, it provides you shelter and transportation if it's a car at the time. But once you get rid of it, it's gone. There's nothing you've acquired for that. You have to understand there's a reason why the richest people on the planet own real estate. It's a hedge for inflation as we see inflation rise, and it's a wealth builder without a doubt. So I'm Wayne Turner. Thank you for watching. God bless you and your family. Like, comment, share this video. My goal is to hit millions of subscribers so people can understand and know the process in its simplest form when it comes to buying and selling anything residential real estate.